Three, two, one. What's up, everybody? Mark and Sarah back for another episode of Able Today, bringing you all the greatest and latest information in the able space, the disability space, sharing stories. And today we got a good one for you. Sarah, you want to tell everybody what we got?
We do have a good one for everyone. It's not all too often, Mark, that we can have and we can say that on our episode here, we have the first able account holder in the entire nation with us. We have Anne Gerhardt from Ohio. And on this episode, she's joined with us with Treasurer Sprague from Ohio, the great state of Ohio, who happened to be kind of on the ground floor of launching the first program. And then, of course, Anne's dad, Chip, who's been a longtime advocate in the original ABLE Act and subsequently has been really involved in standing up the stable program in Ohio, partnering with other states, and then also remains an active member of their stable advisory board.
I love that. Ohio was a really important state in the beginning and the nuance of ABLE, right? In 2016 and launching the first program. And I know you had a lot to do with the legislation and then subsequently getting some of these programs off the ground. So I know this is going to be a great conversation with some folks that you've been knowing for many, many years.
Many years. Many flights with Chip and Anne and their family to Washington, D.C. to help us advocate for the original passage of the ABLE Act, but then also just sharing some stories about what's been happening in Ohio since June of 2016, since Anne opened up her ABLE account. You're going to see a glimpse of her stable card on this episode, and then sharing some fun stories that really led up to this point where we now have $2 billion in assets under management in ABLE accounts. And Mark, kind of what does that mean to a lot of these families that were on the ground floor of helping us get the ABLE Act passed?
Yeah, and speaking specifically to stable, I mean, they've got over 40,000 accounts now?
A lot of accounts, and just continue to partner with states across the country. And Treasurer Sprague really helps us unpack their leadership role in supporting those states and really helping to grow the overall ABLE network.
Well, super important work. Why don't we just go ahead and bring them on and have a great conversation?
Let's do it.
Anne, my friend, it sounds like maybe my future roommate. It's so good to see you. We wanted to start with you today. We were just saying before we hit record, it's not often we get the first ABLE account holder and treasurer. I guess we're going to write history here, not in the country, but in the world with us. And congratulations to the entire stable team, just celebrated 8 years of ABLE accounts in Ohio and with the entire kind of stable consortium, if you will. So Anne, we're so excited and so honored to have you on our podcast. And I can't believe it's been 8 years. So tell our audience a little bit about what you've been up to these days.
So I've been really busy with my job at Kroger. I've been working there like more than 8 years now. And it can be a really hard job, but I still love working there. And I always been busy living in my own house with less more than my dad, just to be honest. And I'm very lucky to have my parents in my life. They've always been there for me, and they are both my role models for my whole life, and they've been supporting me ever since I was growing up, being born, and they have done so much for me. Thank you, Dad, for being my father.
You're welcome.
And my whole life has been busy, and having my two brothers always been there for me, and I've been missing them like crazy, just like my parents. And my whole life has been busy, and I've been I'm very honored to have you guys be a part of this podcast too, and you guys are the best influences that I looked up to.
Well, and always surround yourself by good people. We're so excited to have your dad and the treasurer on. But before I turn it over back to my co-host Mark here, tell us what it means to have your Able account now in your daily life.
Well, to me, it means a lot because I've been using it so I can buy all cool things like any journals, gel pens, definitely clothes, food, that kind of stuff, and I'm I've been loving it.
That's amazing. Mark, before you jump in, I mean, Treasurer, you know this because we just announced this a couple weeks ago with the Able Network. Able accounts hit $2 billion in assets under management. And Chip, I know you're going to dive into a little bit of the history in this episode, but it gives me goosebumps, Anne, thinking you were the trailblazer who helped us get to that point. So, Mark, I just had to point that out because it's a big deal.
Well, it seems like we got a bunch of trailblazers on this call, and I'm like the last man to the show. But speaking of trailblazers, Treasurer Sprague, Ohio was ground zero for ABLE programs, right? And I think you guys really set the standard for ABLE across the nation. Can you share with our audience more about the Stable program and what is so different about Stable compared to other ABLE programs?
Well, I think what's maybe a little bit different about Stable is that we had the advantage that we were first. And that's because of Chip Gerhardt and everything that he did to pass this legislation at the federal level. And you can see with his beautiful daughter by his side there why he was so passionate about it and what it's brought. Anne and their whole family, and the kind of joy of being independent and being able to live and work out in the community, that this has an impact on their lives. And so we were really, our advantage was simply the fact that we were first, and Chip was a great leader for this piece of legislation. And of course, it's going to come up before Congress this next year as the reauthorization. And we need to be telling these stories. And I'm sure that that's why we're doing this podcast. But our Stable account is one of the prides and joys of our administration. When I became the treasurer for the state, we already had 9,000 accounts. And so 9,000 accounts is 9,000 families that we helped serve with the ABLE account. And we now have 43,000 that we serve, which is remarkable in terms of the growth. And you think about all the lives and all the families that have been impacted by this. And it's not just in Ohio. We actually have, you can sign up for our account no matter what state you're in. And there's a lot of other good programs out there, but we do a great job running our program. It's one of the best programs in the country. One of the features is that we have a loadable debit card, and so you can load, $500. So you don't put, maybe if you have a $1,500 in the account, you don't have all of it at risk. You can load $500 onto that account, and then spend it, and then you can load more onto the account the next time. Great investment options and a lot of other good things. Obviously, when you've been doing this for 8 years, you kind of get it down. And I got to just give some credit to our team. We've got a great team. Kenyatta Chandler is our director, and he's just done a fabulous job with it.
Well, Treasurer, what does it mean to you personally to lead this program?
It's I think
there's your Stable card, Robert.
Oh, show us the Stable card there, Anne. If we could kind of zoom in on that.
Push it closer to
right.
There it is.
There it is.
And I'll tell you, that card represents. It's not just money. It really is freedom and self-destiny. I remember we were up in Toledo. If I could just tell one quick story.
Yeah.
There was an ABLE account holder up in Toledo, and she said the most amazing thing to the county commissioners up there. Is she said, the state has a lot of great programs that I like, But this program has given me one thing that no other program in the state ever has. It's given me self-esteem. And to me, to be a public office holder and to even have one person be able to say that about an account is remarkable. And it really, it's that, self-destiny and being able to write your own story that we talk about here in the state of Ohio. And you think about Anne and how she has so many friends at Kroger. I mean, she's such a likable person. And that's how we have all of our relationships, is through work and time that we spend. Right, Anne? I mean, I know you've got tons of friends there at Kroger and at work and also at the house that you live in. And, those are the things that we treasure as families and as people. And I think it's so much about, it's not just about that debit card, but it's really about what that debit card represents.
I love that. Sarah, I mean, we hear this so frequently, but the impact is palpable. I mean, you can cut it with a knife.
Absolutely. And I feel like a broken record because I've told this story a couple of times and just was with Senator Eric Schmidt on a roundtable in Washington and brought this up again. Chip, I met a ABLE account holder in Kansas City, Missouri. So Treasurer Sprague, he's part of the stable program. So you're going to be proud of the story. He just bought his own home out of his ABLE account. I mean, it gives me goosebumps than that. But Chip, I'm going to have you jump in here, and I don't even know where to begin because nobody had more frequent flyer miles to DC to help us advocate for the original passage of the ABLE Act leading up to 2014. You and I both know it took 8 years and 4 Congresses, but can you talk a little bit about that experience and what it meant to be a leader helping us at the National Down Syndrome Society get this bill across the finish line?
Well, obviously, here's the inspiration next to me. And I am the coincidence that I served on the board of NDSS and happened to be in public policy at the time we discovered that federal public policy prohibited people who qualify for Social Security or Medicaid from having more than $2,000 worth of assets in their name. I mean, that was a startling revelation that I didn't know until it was brought to our attention. And under Sarah's leadership at NDSS, we were able to pull together an unprecedented coalition of organizations and people. It really came down to the people that were willing to, at their own expense, mostly come to Washington, meet with members on the Hill or meet with members in their home districts to talk about the importance of this and what it really means to everyday people that not only is there this prohibition, but the gyrations people had to go through to spend down the money in an account. I mean, it's completely contrary to the American dream and everything that we're taught. And I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. We had the right organization. The NDSS was the tip of the spear, and we were relentless. And it's just like I was one of many people, but it was pleasing to be with so many people that cared so much about something that was important and ultimately became a sort of a transformative piece of public policy, not only at the federal level, but in the states that have passed it since. So, I got to do what I love to do anyway for a great cause, and it made it even more enjoyable for me. I would get calls from Sara on a Tuesday morning saying, "Hey, we have a meeting tomorrow with Senator so-and-so or Representative so-and-so, and can you get here?" Well, yeah, of course, let's go. And it was, will always be the most significant professional accomplishment in my life. I mean, I can't see anything else that would come even close to this. So, happy to have played a part.
Yeah.
Well, Chip, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, no, I was just going to point out one thing, Mark. I think also all roads, Chip, right place, right time, right leader, right board chair of NDSS, and all roads led through Ohio at the time. It was such an important state to help us get it across the finish line.
Well, I'll see John Boehner on Thursday, by the way, Sarah. Speaking
Tell him
of,
tell him the Able girl said hi.
I will. Yeah, speaking of coming through Ohio.
Thanks.
Okay.
Well, Chip,
I
I
love
wanted
him
to
too
extend
much.
my thank you to your advocacy as well. And I'll say, a lot has happened since Abel's passage in Ohio, launching the first program, stable. Treasurer Sprague, let's talk a little bit about Ohio's program. It's the largest plan. Tell us about running that and the outreach, right? The boots on the ground approach that you all took to getting people to raising awareness, getting people signed up. I mean, it took a lot of energy, right?
It did. And I'll tell you, one of the first problems that we had, I remember when I came into office talking to a mother that told me, Robert, she said, I went to hear one of your team give a presentation. And I asked them all the questions that I was concerned about. Is this going to affect SSI? Is this, how does this affect housing? What happens if there's more than, $10,000 in the account? And at what point, what happens if there's $100,000 in the account? Or what do I lose and what do I gain? And is this thing really going to work? Essentially, she was trying to pressure check the system. And then she said, and then you know what I did, Robert? I waited 3 months and I went to a different presentation to see if one of your people would tell something different, just to make sure that it worked. And so we had to overcome a lot of skepticism because parents and individuals were skeptical of the program at first, and they didn't know if they would really lose benefits on it or what would happen to them. And so that was our initial challenge. And it was just a lot of meeting with people. And I don't know if you've ever given an ABLE account presentation, but people 5 years ago, they had a lot of questions, and they still do, because it's evergreen. There's always a new group of people that have a son or a daughter or a grandson or granddaughter that's turning 18 or 19. They're coming out of the school system and they're getting ready to work or whatever is next for them. And they want to know about this program. And they're skeptical, and rightfully so, because we understood that we had to have a program that was rock solid. And so I think in terms of outreach, we have great regionals that work with our partners around the state of Ohio to make sure that we get in front of families and individuals and are able to tell them the story and give all the specifics about the accounts. But more than anything else is we try to give the account and the program legitimacy. And one of the ways that we've done that in Ohio, and I don't know what other states have done, but one of the ways we've done that in Ohio is we have signed up some big employers to be direct deposit out of their payroll systems into the stable account. And we did that for two reasons. The first is that employers or businesses or governments look at that as a benefit to their employees, so that they can directly deposit that money into one of the accounts. But the second piece is it really adds legitimacy for these big corporations to say, hey, absolutely, we'll participate with this program and we'll be willing to do a direct deposit. And I think that's been a big help.
I love that. But beyond that, you aren't just serving families in Ohio. I mean, as you mentioned, people from all across the country can open stable accounts. Can you tell us more about that? Like, what was the impetus on creating such an open program?
Well, I think that when it was initially created, we wanted everybody to be able to have access to it. And it didn't matter whether you were in the state of Ohio or whether you're in one of our sister states like Pennsylvania or West Virginia, right over the river. We wanted to be able to help you. And then we've kind of continued that legacy. We have 12 partner states right now, and they've done a fabulous job of being partners with us. And we've upgraded a lot of our services in terms of the back office piece, which has been especially important. Be able to keep be able to keep track of everything and make sure that everything is safe and sound. And then we're running a new promotion. This is something else we do to kind of encourage participation in the stable account in the state of Ohio. Is that for Ohioans, we have money in our budget to match the first $25 that they contribute into their stable account. So it's a little extra incentive, but also it gives us something to talk about with families and a reason to be able to sign up for the program this year. And so we've just started doing that. and we're proud to offer that as well. But it just, like I said, it helps us get the word out about the program around the state.
Yeah, I'd like to share a story. Robert was in the state legislature when Ohio passed the Stable Act. When he decided to run for treasurer, he and I had a meeting in this very room where we're sitting right now, and I shared with him the stable account program, and he was certainly aware of it, but took an immediate interest as the candidate for treasurer and has been relentless in supporting the program going forward, and thus the increase from 9,000 to over 40,000 and the continued improvement of the program. And so, Robert, thank you for your commitment then, more importantly, for your continued commitment as treasurer. But it's meant a lot, obviously, to me, but for the thousands of people now that have benefit from this, we wouldn't be here had you not leaned in and stood up an office that was dedicated to the stable account program.
Thank you. And I'll tell you, one of the challenges of running this kind of program for all the states that run the ABLE account programs is that we found that we were actually not losing money, but it was every account that we added, it cost money to the treasurer's office operations. And so we have been relentless in trying to reduce our costs to make the program sustainable in the long run. And it's all this back office plumbing that nobody cares about. And so I'm not going to dwell on it, but I do want to give our team credit in the Ohio Treasurer's Office because they have focused on this and they've gotten the cost down to where we can break even. So this program will never end, and it will always be there for everybody who wants to take advantage of it.
Wow.
It's so great. And I think, Treasurer, the innovation that we've seen through your leadership with Stable and Chip, I know you've been an active member since the Ohio law passed and we launched the program on the ABLE Stable board. It's just the innovation of how do we build upon ABLE as a platform. So taking advantage of avoiding the SSI spin down and making sure that there's that direct deposit feature through the Stable program. I think that's huge. Payroll deductions, and our job through ABLE today is pretty simple. It's to, right, Mark, expand awareness of ABLE accounts and grow assets under management. And so, Chip, again, $2 billion from our 8 years, 4 Congresses pounding the pavement. I don't know if you want to maybe jump in and just, from your perspective, talk a little bit about that, how that feels, and then maybe where do we go from here?
Well, it's remarkable. We get updates at our Stable Account Advisory Board meetings, and we had one a couple weeks ago, and we're told about the $2 billion mark. And, there was zero money 8 years ago saved, and now there are 175,000 plus accounts and over $2 billion. It's amazing to me that we've gotten this far. But we have so much more to go. I mean, we need ABLE to work to be reauthorized. We need the rollover, the Age Adjustment Act, obviously, to get it up to 46. We're working on legislation here in Ohio to do away with the Medicaid clawback. We've learned, as I'm sure you have heard, that that's a big impediment to people, that's out there potentially. And so hopefully we can chart the course for other states to do away with that. And again, I'll send kudos to the Treasurer's Office. Their outreach is incredible. I mean, they are out every single day. I did a presentation with them last week to estate planning lawyers and other financial advisors about this. And as we have found, I mean, too few in the room knew what the ABLE accounts were going into the conversation. Now, hopefully 60 more people know about them, and we'll share the importance of these. And, our population is probably risk averse. We're still worried about this asset limit. It still exists in federal law. And Sarah, you and I thought, at least I thought, you probably did too, but as soon as this thing got passed and authorized, that people would like in droves to sign up. And, I failed to recognize just how ingrained this concept was of you can't put any assets in our name. And thus the important outreach by the treasurer's office here in Ohio and elsewhere to convince people that they can go ahead and sign up for these. I every time I meet somebody that has a family member, I talk about this stable account or able account if I'm out of Ohio.
It's my favorite thing to talk about on airplanes. But yes, I think there is this still this notion, even in the disability community, people don't even understand the full potential of what having an able account could mean for the individual, and not just where they are in their life now, but and where you are 8 years from when you opened up that able account is in a completely different place. And it's important to educate people on how they can maximize that account no matter where they are in their life.
Well, we talked about, obviously the importance of saving money and having assets for Anne. But,
You mean your favorite daughter?
my only daughter.
Favorite?
It's amazing how that works out. But
I
the
have that same issue, Anne.
Me too.
Yes,
it's self-reliance. It's an opportunity. I mean, you saw Anne's stable card. I mean, she is able to use that for everyday expenses and to buy gifts for people. But, Robert, your story,
recruited.
yeah, self-esteem, it's a lot about that. And we talked about that many, many years ago. And it's, I think, coming to fruition in so many ways.
And
Well,
I'd
and in
like
that vein, oh, go ahead,
excuse
Trevor.
me, Mark, if I could just add one other thing.
Yeah.
We talk about that $2 billion number. I think maybe it's in the state of Ohio, we're approaching $500 million of assets under management. But it's not about the money at all, okay? Because money doesn't mean anything. Money is only valuable when you put it into motion, right? And so what you're hearing, what Ann said about, I get to buy clothes. Think about that for just a second. I mean, it's when this money is in motion, when I get to pay to take the Uber downtown by myself, or, it's not about just paying rent. It's about being able to take a vacation or doing the things that you want to do to realize, your own destiny and make your own choices. That's what makes this account so incredibly powerful.
Exactly. And Treasurer, we know that your office, you have a bright future and you still are working on some things. You want to share with everyone what those initiatives are for the future of Stable?
Well, I mean, we're always working on things. We don't have anything to unveil right now, Mark, but I will tell you, one of the things that we're all going to be working on, I know this doesn't fit exactly into your organization's advocacy, but is this able age adjustment. And so we're excited about, right now, the onset of the disability has to be before age 26, and it's going to move to age 46. And we just think that there's a real opportunity here to reach out to a lot of other people here in the state of Ohio. Some of our veterans that we admire and honor and that we owe a lot to be able to help them with a stable account in the future, as well as many other people around our state. So, the same story that we have really been focused on the developmental disabilities community, I think will all of a sudden apply to a much broader audience, and we'll be able to serve more families. And we're excited about that coming up.
Well, I'll tell you, I was 27 when my accident happened and my long-term disability onset took place.
Mm-hmm.
So learning about ABLE later on, and then learning that I wasn't eligible to even open an account when I started working with Sara and Eric and ABLE today, it was still such an important topic for me. And that's why I've been doing this work. But to now have been a part of, the ABLE Age Adjustment Act and seeing the impact for people like Chip and Ann and everybody is just incredible. So thank you all for everything that you do.
Well, I think I get to bring us home, Mark, which
Yeah,
I can't believe you're letting me do this today. It must be because I have my friend Ann on today. Ann, we ask every guest on our podcast this one question, could you share with us what is the best thing about having an ABLE account?
Well, to me, having a Able account, it really does help me, so I don't have to lose my social benefits, and I have my parents to help me with finances and rent and my new house.
Oh, petty Manny petty.
And also getting toes and nails done.
That's
Mani-pedi.
that's an important element of what we do, Anne. Next time I'm
Absolutely.
in Cincinnati, we're going for a mani-pedi.
I'm in.
Oh, perfect. Chip, do you want to tell us the best thing about ABLE accounts?
Well, it's it gives Jane and me a lot of feeling of security for Anne's financial future. But I think even more important than that is that Anne is able to have her own money. She works. She puts money from her paycheck into her stable account, and she has access to it, and she should have access to it. And it gives her a chance to live a much more independent, self-directed life than was able to be lived less than a decade ago.
Absolutely. Treasurer?
Well, I'll go back to a story when I was chair of the Medicaid subcommittee within finance. And I remember a father staying there late into the night to give testimony. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, look, he said, sir, he said, I really don't care what you do with tax policy in the state of Ohio, but what you do with people in the developmental disabilities community will affect my son for the rest of his life. And I think the best thing about the stable account is that it provides financial stability and an opportunity to people who are able to use it. And I think it really does change the trajectory of their lives.
Beautifully said. Sarah, you got anything else?
I can't. How can you top the treasurer, Chip, and Anne?
I don't think you can. Well, Treasurer, Chip, and on behalf of Able today, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do this with us today. This outreach is so critical, and Sarah and I are really trying to figure out how to scale the impact. I think we know that even currently, 8 million people are eligible for Able accounts, and we're only just a little bit above 2%, right? So how can we really move the envelope? To your point, Chip, about people being set in their notions about assets, like we have a lot of work to do in terms of raising that awareness and
Yes.
really moving the needle forward. So thank you. And to everyone that listened to this episode, thank you. Stay tuned for the next episode of Able Today. Cheers.
Thank you.
Can I add a life quote if that's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so my life quote is it is always okay to have a true speaking voice, and you want other people to hear it and make it a bit more brightness into it. And life is a journey, and you don't want others to take that away from you in life. But we all very lucky to have what is special, and it's always okay to have like I don't know how you can say it, but like a true voice is a life is like listening to your heart, and your heart is your own voice, and you want to hear it from not just you, just from other people that you want to be with, and also being with loved ones that will mean a lot to you. Like, for really good example, like when I lost my grandma, that was really hard for me to think about that. And to me, I'm trying to, let my emotions come into me and let my heart tell me or say that my grandma wanted me to do what's right for me. And if she was here right now, she really want me and my dad and my mom to be a part of his special life and incredible journey ahead. And I think that is very important for me and my whole family. And we all miss my grandma a lot still.
Okay.
And we are very special to have this incredible journey ahead of us.
Yes. Thank you.
Well
That's
said.
great.
Add motivational speaker and to your resume.
Heard it here first. Cheers.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thanks for everything you're doing for us in DC and on this issue. Mark, thank you for your personal story. You may have single-handedly been able to get that legislation passed at the federal level and done for the Able Age Adjustment Act, which Chip Gerhardt did for the original ABLE Act. So thank you both for your amazing advocacy. And Chip, thanks again for serving on our ABLE Advisory Committee and
Thank you,
everything
Dad.
you added to that public policy conversation across the state for so many years. Thank you for continuing to give on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Love
Dad.
it.
Thank you,
Thank
Anne.
you all.
All
All
right.
right,
Thanks, Anne.
everybody.
Bye.
Well, have a great
See ya.
Tuesday.
Thank
Bye.
you, Sarah.